On to Sunday's grand final. Promises to be an amazing game. It's got all the ingredients for a classic. My gut is saying the Broncos, but the more I talk about it, I convince myself that Penrith are going to win. The Panthers, they've been so good in semi-final football. Like, the last time they were beaten was against Parramatta, where they lost Jerome Luai, a team that's frequently been able to beat them in regular season football, but they're in the playoffs. What is it? 2 tries they've conceded in 160 minutes of football. Like, it's incredible what they've managed to do.
I think they've got to look. I'm a Brisbane bloke. Went to the first game. Optimistic they can win, Jimmy, but they've got to be just about perfect. That's the only way you can beat Penrith, I think. If you're just close enough to perfect. You can't afford to be off your game. And they did throw a lot of offloads last week, and a lot of them stuck. I think we've seen in the past that maybe chancing your arm a bit against Penrith can have some success.
Well, we saw Manly, and Woodsy, you played in that game. Yep. The opening 40 minutes, Manly had a bit of an attitude of we're going to just move the ball around, chance our arm. Some of the things that Manly did that evening were just ridiculous and never going to work. But that said, it did provide perhaps a little bit of a blueprint.
Yeah, we wanted to play unorthodox. They defend so well in systems, Jimmy. We wanted to chance our arm. We probably, you look back on it, the first 40, everything come off for us. We're leading at halftime 12-6. Second half, we continue to do what we did, but it's one of those things you need it to come off for you. Penrith are a side, they love the cycle. So the longer you get in a what we call a grind, where you go set for set for set, they just hang in there. There's just so they're a quality outfit. They're fit. They're strong. They're fast. They know what's best for their team. If there's times where they see an opportunity, but then defensively, you don't. Sorry, you read it well. Cleary will just drop a back row under. They're calm. They don't have to go for that big play straight away. They're patient. They just keep chipping away at you, and that's what they did to us. We worried them a little bit in the first half, but I think as much as we thought we worried them, they were still in their comfort zone. Like they phased too much. Like they just kept coming at us. And then when you watch that game when they played against Parramatta, I think the offload's the one. That's what's going to hurt them. But if you go to run to offload, you know what it's like, Jim. You played the game. They don't come off well. And the collisions, you're thinking about trying to offload before, getting your bump, getting everything done properly. And that's when I think we talk about, it's good to go offload against Penrith, but you've got to think to run first. Yes. You've got to break that collision, and then you've got to offload when you're in a better position. You can't just think, all right, our game plan is to offload.
Hand grenade, you can't do the hand grenade.
Because then defensively, they just stick to their systems, and they will, like blokes like Mitch Kenny, they will fight tooth and nail to jump on that loose ball. And then when you think you're on top of them, a little moment like that in the game will just change it massively, and then you see Cleary, Edwards, they'll just jump on the back of it and they'll cane you. So they need to be near perfect.
We're looking at staying on Penrith for a moment. They will look at that Warriors game and go, if you guys play like that, we win.
Yep.
So I think Brisbane missed the start. Wade Egan was allowed far too much time to come and jump in from dummy half. Now, Mitch Kenny isn't going to be as effective as Wade Egan, but what I think you'll see is Isaiah Yeo take advantage of that one marker and the lack of attention that the Broncos put on that. I think they'll be on the back foot, and then even again back to the very beginning of that game, when the Warriors scored their couple of tries, if they were able to extend that lead, I think it was Pompey who missed both conversions. If that's Cleary, he ices those. He missed 3 in a row, actually, Pompey. But I think when it was 8-6 or 8-4, 2 tries to 1, Penrith in that situation, they choke you out, they tap you out. They don't just allow you to come back in. Or if they do, it's a long time before you get back into the game. And the longer you have to wait, the more pressure that is applied, the more you're looking at the scoreboard and the shot clock thinking, oh no.
Pressure.
Where the Warriors were allowed to get them back into this game. So I think Penrith looking at that game is I fancy ourselves to just start well and just ride it out. And not too dissimilar to what they did to Parramatta in last year's grand final, where Parramatta were gone after 20, 30 minutes.
If that,
Do you think Brisbane, a lot of guys who played in big games, right? Big games, Origin, Test matches. But is a grand final different? Like Penrith played in 4 grand finals in a row now. They know what to expect. Brisbane haven't had that many blokes playing grand final. Adam Reynolds, an obvious one. Capewell. They haven't had that many guys playing in grand. Is it a different pressure?
It is. The emotion of the week is different. It's different to I imagine what Origin would be like. It's different to what big games in a World Cup campaign, like playing in a World Cup final. Very different playing the grand final. This is what years of work have gone into. Yes, it's the same playing for your country and your state, but all that pre-season, it's a long year, all comes into this. The pressure on Brisbane, where for me the Panthers, they're so conditioned to these big games.
Oh yeah,
I've used the analogy before where I think Brisbane, if they're going to win, that they win it in the week and they're having the ability to remain calm. But for Penrith, I think they view any big game as, okay, we just need a regular performance that just so happens to fall on a special day.
Yeah.
They don't need to rise to the occasion. They just go, we're going to perform like this, like they have done for the past 4 seasons, and they've improved and made slight changes and tinkered with a few things, and they might do that for this Sunday's game. But I genuinely think they just go, well, this is what we do, and then the occasion just changes. The consequence of the result changes. Like it either gives us a three-peat or it doesn't.
For me, Jimmy, I think Penrith learnt a lot out of 2020. When they got blown off the park against Melbourne Storm, like they were massive favourites. They were young. We spoke about that week. You come up against a Melbourne side that we think, they will have no fear, these Panthers boys. But it looked like they got a little bit of stage fright that night. That's probably the only time in the last 4 years you think that the Panthers have had stage fright. And it looked like they learnt such a valuable lesson from that night, because the next couple of years when they played Souths in the grand final, when they played Parramatta, they didn't get overawed by the occasion. They, at times against Souths, they were behind on the scoreboard, but they stayed calm and composed. Whereas you said about Brisbane, I think they've missed a start in the first 2 games in the semis. Even against Melbourne, I know they won 26-0, but Melbourne was sort of in the game for that first 20 minutes because Brisbane had a few errors and then they got a lot of penalties, but they were turning the possession over. You can't do that against Penrith. So I just think if they missed the jump, it could remind me a bit of the 2020 Panthers side, because they missed the jump just slightly against Melbourne and they were down 22-0 on the scoreboard at half time. And that would be a valuable lesson that they learned. So, like you said, I think it's just a normal game for Penrith, but it's a bigger occasion, and they've been here 4 times in a row.
So just switching it around, Brisbane, how do they need to look at, we need to rise to the occasion? Do they need to play the occasion, rather than just do what they've been doing all season? Because you're kind of doing that funny predicament as Coach Walters. You're like, well, hang on,
do we change?
Here's what we've done all year to get us in this position, but then the obviously it's all on the line, and do we need to change? And are we going to be better for looking to change or having different areas of focus? Okay, we know we can play that power game through the middle.
Yep.
We know when the ball goes to Walsh, he can be electric. But do we pull Walsh back a little bit? Because he's going to throw them no matter what. We saw what he did. Throws that ball to Dallin Watene-Zelezniak and see it.
Yep.
Crichton, he's there. That's the same side from memory.
Yep, it is. Yep.
They're not going to get let off. It's not going to be, I'll dust myself down and throw another one to Herbie a little bit later on. that doesn't
work. I was lucky enough to go down to FanFest the other day, and we ended up grabbing Adam Reynolds for a conversation. And I just asked him, I said, you've obviously got a lot of young kids in the squad. What do you do with this week? Does it change? And he goes, look, when we're on the training paddock, the focus is here. Everything's, I want 100%, which is what you understand. But he goes, when you're away from it, because I said, how are you handling the thousands and thousands up at Brisbane Red Hill, the training? He goes, mate, I want the boys to enjoy it, because you never know. It could be your last, it could be your one and only, or you could have a lot like Penrith. He said, we need to enjoy the moment, but we need to stay present. We don't need to get caught up in such of the hype. Just enjoy that period of time we're at, but we've also got a job to do. And I think having someone like Adam Reynolds and Kurt Capewell that have been there is going to really help them. If they didn't have those 2 blokes and they still had young halves, I'd be a little bit worried. But because those blokes have been there, and Adam's in such a pivotal, a pivotal position in that squad. I think it's going to really help those young blokes. And then with Reece Walsh, I asked him about him. I said, how do you control him? He goes, look, I don't control. I just try to teach him. So if he does throw an intercept or does something bad, I just go to say, like, what's the positive you got out of that? He goes, well, I've learned not to throw that massive cutout pass and think that that's the only play. I've got to think hit short or think show and go run. So, and he learned that on the weekend. You know, he threw that one early on against Watini's Lesniak. He catches it. Then the next play they go down, they hit short to Farnworth and gets through. So it's all about lessons. And I just said to him, I said, well, you don't want to be you don't want to be behind the eight ball. And he goes, yeah, well, so he needs to get it right from the start. But then if he doesn't, he needs to not go into his shell and just keep knowing what his guns are, and he needs to keep going to it.
I think a footballing perspective, really, and on the training ground, that's the easy part.
Yep.
On big game week, that's the easy part. You're doing what you usually do. It's when you're away from training, and when you're sat in that hotel room just stewing over.
And you've got family members ringing you for tickets and friends.
You've got that.
Kickoff.
And you're thinking about
you've just got, you just sat in your hotel and you're thinking, wow, it's coming this Sunday. It's a little bit different. Like if you're, if the Broncos, they travel to Sydney and play the Tigers, the Dragons, the Dogs, even Penrith in a regular round game, they're not giving it half as much thought as what they would be. So for me, it's about how they manage those thoughts that come into your head when you're least expecting it, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, did it happen? Oh, no. It's not happened yet.
There's no next week. This is, we win the comp. We lose, we don't win the comp. So you've got that whole long period to stew. You don't want to stuff up on that huge occasion.
I was intrigued, actually. I watched a bit of footy talk earlier this week, and I saw Gordon Tallis talking about Payne Haas. And it got me thinking about Payne Haas. He's never really owned a big game, Payne Haas. I don't think he's ever really cracked it at Origin. I don't think he's owned Origin. This is a big game for Payne Haas, for me. I mean, he's the best front. We all think he's the best front row in the game. If you look at when Penrith beat them earlier this year, they kept him to, I think, 103 metres, Payne Haas. And you talk about starting the game well, it's got to start with him, Jimmy. And I honestly think Payne Haas in big games over the course of his career has been found wanting. I can't remember him ever dominating
But these
Origin.
are the things we're talking about. So what does Payne Haas do well every week?
He just runs it hard, doesn't he?
So why do we got to come out this week and go, Payne Haas needs to bash people and do this?
No, I'm not saying this to bash
that's what
people.
Gordy, he needs to own it. He needs to bring the pain. No, Payne needs to do what he does every week, which is just go forward.
But he hasn't done that in big games.
But don't think just because this is a big game, you got to come out of the line and put a massive shot on. No. Play to your strengths. You know what you do well. Tommy Flegler is the aggressive middle forward. That's his job. I want to see Payne do what he does every week. You said he's been limited to 100 metres.
Yeah.
Well, go out there and run 180, 200 metres.
Yep.
Just back yourself. Don't try to do something you don't do every week. Because that's what Jimmy said. You sit in the room, you think, oh, well, look, I'm looking at social media. Gordy's come out and said, you need to own it. Defensively, you need to do this. But that's not what he does every week. They need to stick to what they've been doing so well all year. Don't change what just because other people have come out and said it.
Yeah, and there's so many interesting battles to be fought on Sunday evening. We've got it on the rundown here. Charlie White produces the battle with Burgess, the Battle of Britain, wanting me to take the listeners through the opening moments of the 2014
Can I just
grand
ask you a
final.
question? Did you think, when you hit him, that you'd done damage?
Didn't know.
Didn't know?
No, didn't really know.
Wow.
No.
It's a big collision.
It was. It was. It was a bit of it was a very. Look, there's a bit more to this because, it was a strange week. Michael Innes injured.
Yep. Not
playing, so I'm skipper. Win the toss, or we do the toss. I win it. Obviously, we're kicking off. That's how I knew I wanted to start the game by going down, trying to intimidate the opposition. Yep. Start with a big defensive set. Probably as well. Probably knew.
Was that something you did whenever you captain the team, won the toss?
Always tried to kick off. Yes, always, without a shadow of a doubt. It's the best way to start the game.
I think it's easy for us as middles too because we get the first involvement.
Yeah.
If you got a ball, if you're receiving, you don't always get that first carry.
I enjoyed the first tackle.
Bashing blokes.
We're just getting into the game
Yeah.
a good way, and also realistically, look, the Dogs had gone on a crazy run, but I think deep down we knew we had to look to try and intimidate Souths if we were going to get the victory. Like they had Greg Inglis, Sam and George at the time, Tom off the bench, who was amazing, Johnny
Teo.
Sutton, Teo. Like we knew we had to like get physical if we were any chance. Like any game.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were about to we do the toss, you do all the dignitaries, which is all a little bit different. And I can remember looking down and thinking, well, there's only one person on that team with a head that big. It's Sam. So, geez, what's he doing there? Because obviously,
The leader.
he was playing lock forward. Lock forward usually stand on the 10. It's the front rowers at the back. And I think he'd swap with Dave Tyrrell, which was disappointing for me. But I remember seeing Sam and thinking, oh God, here we go. And then, just sort of last words to Trent Hockinson would just kick it deep. I stood on the right. I wasn't going to bottle it and say like, actually, Hocko kick it left.
Yeah.
I wasn't no chance of bottling it. I knew Sam wanted the first run, and we spoke about this after. And I wanted the first tackle, and then he's just running, and I'm running down and sort of thinking. I can remember sort of getting a little bit closer, thinking like, oh God, it's on, and we all know how Sam returns the football, and it just this huge collision, obviously, and spun out of it, and just being like, at the time, it didn't register. It wasn't until a couple of sets later that I sort of seen the damage, because even that it's been replayed however many times, and you see Sam go down and the trainer, but obviously when you're in the moment, I'm at market, I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
I'm like carrying on with the game. Like I don't know, is there a trainer on? Is there a South player that totally unaware until maybe 2 or 3 sets later when we made an error and we were at the scrum.
I remember I was at that game, and I remember the collision. And as soon as Sammy plays the ball, just runs straight to the trainers like that. Just something. I thought he might have, broke the eye socket. I didn't know what to extent, but mate, what a collision! What a way to start the grand final.
Yeah. Did you like the first hit up, Woodsy?
Yeah,
Kickoffs and
if we're
tackle?
receiving, I want to get the first hit up, but then if you're kicking off, you just want to go straight into the collision. You don't want to be that, because you might not get a carry to play 3 or play 4 if you're the other front rower, and sometimes depends what your game plan is that week. If you're targeting the right side of the field, you might use your back row, the centre. You might not even get a carry that first set, and as Jimmy will tell you, as a front rower, you want to carry that first. You need to get an involvement straight away.
What goes through your head when a bloke like Sam, catches, gets the ball from the kickoff, and he is just hurtling back towards you? You know that's going to hurt, right?
Yeah, but
I'd rather than run straight at you. You'd rather. I like when it's straight. It's harder when they're moving around to tackle blokes. Like when they run to your space, I reckon you got more power when they run straight at you.
Okay.
Well, you don't want to get completely
Too tall. And
you don't want to get too chest on. You need to be on a shoulder, otherwise.
There's only one bloke I find hard from kickoff runs, and it's Jared Weir-Hargraves, because he's got a real good bump.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't he's got that, it hasn't got a big target zone because he's got a real good lean. So if you can just get under his bump, it's okay. But if you just slightly off, oh mate, it hurts when he gets that forearm into you.
Yeah, talking about this, it doesn't make me miss it.
Is Tino a bit like that too, or not?
No, not really, because Tina sort of just bumps like that, whereas
Yeah.
Hargraves goes in real hard. It's fair play, like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But the aggression Hargraves uses is a lot different to Tino.
Yeah, okay.
It's weird. I used to be a person that wanted all of that,
Yes.
and now, couldn't think of much worse. All right, guys. Final predictions. Where will this game be won? Who wins and why? And who is your nominations for the Clive Churchill Medal winner?
Well, I've got to go for Brisbane, Jimmy. Otherwise, I'd get killed at home. I think they'll win just because I just think they've got points in them. I think you need to score points to beat Penrith. I think the ball's going to stick. I think they're going to chance their arm. I think Reece Walsh is going to have an unbelievable game. And I think they've got enough points in them to worry Penrith and to beat Penrith.
Just quickly before I come to you, Woodsy, do you think the predicted conditions are going to suit the Broncos or
What's
Penrith
the latest
more?
prediction?
Well, the prediction is it's going to be a 30-plus day.
Ooh. Well, I think that might help.
Obviously, it'll cool into the evening, but
Yeah. I would have thought those conditions, do they play into either hand? I don't know. Maybe the fitter team. Who's the fitter team? You'd probably say Penrith, right? they always look like they're the fittest team. But if it's a dry track and it's you can
plays into pace, right?
play
Not
with
that
speed.
Penrith
You
or
can throw the ball around,
yeah.
and Walsh can weave some magic. So, and look, I think he loves the big stage race. I reckon he'll win the Clive Churchill too. I think that's his moment. He loves it.
Interesting.
He's loved it since he was. I spoke to his parents in the last couple of days. He's loved it since he was basically 3 years old. So he's made for. He was born for this moment, I reckon.
Woodsy?
For me, I think this game is going to be won through the middle third. We spoke about the battles up front, because you look at the way that Fisher Harris and Leota started last year, they just dominated that game from the outset.
Leota was unbelievable last year.
It's just defensively,
20.
they were going out and just bashing blokes. But I think Brisbane can match it there. Who wins for me? I think Brisbane win in Golden Point. I'm thinking we're going to Golden Point this week, boys.
I can't deal with that stress.
Sorry, mate, but I think you're going to have to get your invoice book out. You're going to have to put another one in, because I reckon this will go.
I'm not playing. Yeah, I can live with that. Yeah.
And I reckon
sweet Golden Point. Here we go. No, it won't be Golden Point. Or is it extra time?
Extra
But
time.
I reckon it will go to Golden. I reckon I'm feeling
Extra
a Golden
time.
You
Point.
think equal of the
Yeah, because I think
scores at the end
I
of
just
extra
think they
time.
match each other so well, and I think
Wow.
Adam Reynolds' field goal with Patrick Carrigan is McClive Churchill.
I don't think with the predicted conditions it can go.
Extra time.
No. Do you just see players flopping out? If it goes to extra time, it'd be an absolute cricket score.
Oh, mate.
Are you expecting a high-scoring game, or what are you
No.
thinking? No.
I reckon it's going to be the opposite. I think it's going to be low.
Yeah, I think
They're both
I think
defensively good.
I've just got this. It's weird. The more I talk about it, the more I think Penrith. But I had this gut feeling. There's something about the Broncos, the Beatlemania, the new kids on the block, Adam Reynolds, all the subplots that go into Reynolds back in Sydney. The thanks Souths for Renault.
That was awesome.
I don't know. There's just something about this Brisbane team.
Cinderella story, Jimmy.
Yeah.
What do you got?
But, the party poopers, Penrith, I'm going to stick Broncos. I think it'll be tight by less than 4.
Yeah.
And Reynolds will be Clive Churchill.
Like that. Yeah, like that.
All right. Well, that's all. Okay. Well, that's us done for Footy Talk. Thank you, Reedy. Thank you, Woodsy. Please, everybody, get tuned in for Sunday. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Really looking forward to watching these two teams go head to head. And we'll catch you very soon.